Howdy folks, today we're going to talk about the unique Melody MEST. Hang on a sec. Alright, these are excellent quality headphones. As you can see, they are made of carbon fiber. I got them in red, sort of like red accents. They have an extruded 2-pin connector right there. And it actually, if you can see that there, it has a little bit of like ribbed texture on the edges of the 2-pin. Real interesting. And what happens is when you stick the cables on, which look something like this, let's see here, they really have a tight fit on this guy. They're not going to fall off, so that's excellent. Some people, you know, get bugged out about that. These have a titanium nozzle right there. They have 3 soundbores, as you can see kind of right there. Very cool. There is a vent on the back here, which is right there. And I think there could be a damper in that vent, just based on the way it looks. And so these actually fit me quite well. That's the side profile. And I wanted to pull out something else, a couple of headphones, so you had some idea of what the heck I'm talking about by these fit me well. So one of the things that a lot of folks are doing with these MESTs is they buy them and then they end up ordering a custom version of this because, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but the bone conduction driver really needs a lot of this headphone, at least sort of the tip part, to be touching a lot of your ear, especially your ear canal, to produce, and the boner conduction driver is in the mid-range. So to produce really excellent mids, you really want this thing to fit well and touch a lot of your, both your ear canal and your outer ear if possible. Really this flat part right here should be bottomed out in your outer ear. So if I look at, here's a, ooh, let me get my, yeah. So this is a Moondrop A8. Let's see if I can. The A8 has like a rounded shell more. But anyway, this kind of shows you maybe what I'm trying to say, which is that the MEST is actually not that big. The A8 I would classify as being one of the biggest headphones you can get, the IEMs. So I wanted to show you that. And then the bore size. So this is, let's see here, get this about right. Maybe that'll show you something. So the MEST is definitely going to be smaller. These A8s fit the Comply T600, and the MEST will fit Comply T400 and 500 also, pretty much, but just to let you know that. And then folks might want to know what does it look like versus an EJ07, which is my favorite headphone, and looks about, let me, well, I'll just leave that on there, but so maybe that'll show you something here. Let's try this one. Yeah. Okay, so you get some idea of what's going on there. And then the bore size there. The EJ07 has kind of a ovular shaped bore, which if your ear canals have that shape, man, these fit great, which mine do, hilariously enough. Yeah, so just wanted to show you that there, like a side profile. So they're really not that big. That's my point. All right. So, yeah, a lot of folks are buying custom MESTs. And that makes a lot of sense to me because, like I said, the bone conduction driver really needs to be touching a lot of your ear canal. Now, just to show you this as well, I ended up sort of fashioning some little tips for these. Let me see if I can get this on here. So that ended up being pretty close to what my ear canals like to have, like so. That's a 3-flange sort of wide bore tip, and then I cut off the 3rd flange and then cut it like in half. So this is just enough silicone right here to actually seal, and I can shove this thing all the way in and have this bottom out. So excellent. It's a little rough on my ears. I don't know. If we talk about an etymotic, these are not nearly even close to an etymotic level of ear rape, but they're deep fitting in this mode, shall we say. Alrighty, so I just wanted to go over the fit, finish, and all that, and just real quickly, the case is really quite nice. It's a good high quality case, real hard, and it has two little compartments for the left and right tips, IEMs, and then we have the place to put the cable. And overall, I give this box pretty much a 10 out of 10. I like to have a little extra space to put things in them, and you can put this in a backpack, and it's hard enough; it won't compress and smash things up. So excellent. I like it a lot. Now, as far as the cable goes, I checked this out in the unboxing. This is an extremely high quality cable. Let's just say that right off. It's like OCC. One crystal copper coated silver with all whatever kind of buzzwords they're going to throw in here. It's sort of a gray and like one strand's gray, one strand is like really silverish, and then it has an excellent chin slider, which is this. And you guys probably know I do a lot of active stuff. I can't stand heavy chin sliders, so that's perfect. And then we have the splitter, which is also just a shrink wrap, and I love that too. No extra weight, and this cable is kind of beefy. It's a thick cable, so extra weight is no bueno. And then the 2.5 connector is actually very nice and not too big, and I like it a lot. So cable's a full win. $400 or whatever. I wouldn't buy it, but do I like it? I like it a lot. It's a very, very nice cable. All right, so talked about the sort of the basics to start with. So I'll just say right off, these headphones are absolutely phenomenal. They're just about as good as you're going to find, and we'll talk about some of the metrics, but especially in the OCD treble detail areas. These things are like, holy crap. So excuse me, let me get a little drink of beer here. All right. Let's look at a graph real quick. So just to talk about the sort of the signature of these headphones, I pulled up the EJ07 because obviously it's my favorite headphone. And you look at this and you go, well, that's a pretty big difference. And in fact, it is. We definitely have quite a bit more mid-bass, say about 4 dB in the 100 hertz range compared to the EJ07, which I consider to have it's sub-bass tuned, and the unique melody is going to add a bit more mid-bass in there to give notes a bit of a thicker, richer sort of texture. So everything is fairly similar up to about 1K, and then we see that the EJ07 has about, what is that, maybe 3 or 4 extra dB of energy at about 2.5K, which is pretty well smack in the mids. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Now, obviously from Critical's graph, there's less energy in that 2.5K area. However, in my opinion, and based on my testing with this, if you get the bone conduction driver working, that's to say you get a nice deep fit with these headphones, the 2.5K comes way up. And in fact, I don't believe that 711 coupler like Critical has can actually measure that frequency range of the boner conduction driver. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't really necessarily believe the graph in that range. Moving up, say, to past 5K, right in the 6K range, yes, in fact, these do have plenty of energy in that range. And so to have the signature balanced out correctly for me, you absolutely need to get those bone conduction drivers working perfectly. They got to be deep-seated, and that 2.5K-ish area needs to come up by 3 to 5 decibels, which then creates a much more balanced, even signature. And so the overall signature of this headphone I would call balanced and slightly excited. In the respect of, say, like the Fearless S8F, actually, which is an interesting comparison, but I kept thinking that my brain seemed to think they were sort of similar in a lot of respects in the excited tuning. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to talk about a couple points here before I get into the graph. I made myself sort of a bullet list. I'll just put these there so you can check them out. And so I just wanted, some stuff that really popped into my head. So first off, these have a hilariously perfect amount of OCD detail. It's just phenomenal. The treble is tuned ultra perfect on these for folks that like a top of the line level tuning. And by that same token, they're going to be, let me just pull the graph up again so you can kind of see the upper treble above, say, 8K. Compared to the EG07, we're talking, that's got to be 15 extra dB, like around, what is that, 11, 12K. It's a hilariously large amount of extra detail in that range. And because that range is covered by the electrostatic drivers, the Sonyans, it's a very, very natural replay, which is phenomenal and totally unique. And so, as a result of all of that, the unique melodies are going to be less forgiving than the EG07, but still fairly forgiving compared to a lot of other top-of-the-line sets, total tuned sets. That's kind of what I mean. The electrostatic drivers have a very natural replay with extra great resolution and, all the buzzwords you might want to throw out there. So these are not replacement headphones. So you can't say, like if you're an EJ07 lover, the MEST is not a replacement for those. It's a complementary headphone. That's really a big point I wanted to make to a lot of folks, because people have been asking me like crazy, well, hey man, are these better? And it's like, that really depends on what you're looking for and the recording that you have. And as a lot of my recordings, a lot of my music library is actually older stuff recorded, say, in the 70s, definitely not recorded digitally, on analog, whatever. And so that's like a lot of reggae, a lot of old school like folk music. There's I'm not even going to be that specific, but you get my point. The bad recordings on the EJ07, it makes those sound amazing, phenomenal, just knock it out of the park. Whereas the MEST is going to be less forgiving. It really does enjoy better high-quality recordings, higher bit rates, especially better recorded and better mixed stuff. It's going to just kill it on that, absolutely kill it. So, the EJ will make a crap recording sound godlike, and the MEST will make it sound even more godlike. Or I should say, a better recorded track even more godlike. It's just like that. And also, as a result of that, if you have a track that has, say, it's boxy, it's peaky, maybe they didn't put enough, low end into the mix, the MEST isn't. It's not going to give you any forgiveness in that area, and it will definitely replay back what was in the track, and especially the soundstage itself. It doesn't give you anything extra. It gives you what was in the recording. So, important points to know. A lot of this is so dependent on people's library and what they enjoy listening to. And so I'd also say that the MEST has quite a headphone-like presentation. By that I mean that incredible resolution, extremely wide, sort of a flat, balanced sound, although it certainly is a little bit exciting, and I wouldn't call it boring, like studio monitor boring kind of thing. So, and of course we talked about deeper the fit, the better the mids. That's a really stickler point I want to make with these, and that's also why so many folks are getting customs, because they will in fact make the bone conduction driver give you that extra like 10%. All right, let's just jump into the graph. Well, by that I meant my Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so I redid my Excel spreadsheet. I took out coherency and added 3D, changed up a couple of my wordings in terms of what I meant these metrics to actually mean in my own mind. So let's start with, and I'll just highlight this line here. Whoa, all right. You may notice that the unique Melody MEST is at the top of the chart. And so for the total sound score, we have a 94 out of 100. The total score here is including extra metrics which aren't strictly sound related. So let's just scroll over. So we have things like, these are add-on benefits, pressure buildup, isolation, binaural, and like special features. So if you're just a strictly sound quality kind of person, then you can ignore that stuff and strictly focus on the sound score right about here on this column here. Okay, so we have 94 out of 100. Let's go over the exceptional magic factor. So, some of the things about this headphone that really strike me as being special. Okay, we're going to go over the first thing, which is that you have a very open, wide, large sound field with an incredible amount of OCD detail and a fairly natural playback. And combining all of those features together is, well, at least for the stuff I've heard, is extremely, and I mean really rare. It pretty much always is that when a headphone has OCD detail, the stage depth, the 3D of the stage collapses and turns into a 2D type of thing where it's just left to right. And I really actually don't like that. That's one of the reasons the TOTL V14 ended up being rated much lower for me, even though it has a lot of excellent technical metrics. When you don't have the third dimension, the depth of the stage, the say, high, low, behind the head sort of stuff going on, I just feel like you're missing like a chunk of the sound, and I don't like it. So anyway, this doesnn do that. This has all of that. It has the 3D nature. It has the OCD detail. It has rich mids. It has fantastic bass head, even if you EQ bass. It's got a lot of special, exceptional qualities. It is as wide as you can possibly get. It has a sort of special feature in that, so like a lot of wide headphones may not necessarily replay the actual encoded soundstage correctly. That's to say that, let's say you're listening to like a jazz recording in a intimate, venue. Maybe it's small, 10 seats or something. So if something's recorded like that, you actually don't want that to sound like it was recorded in a stadium, right? It shouldn't replay like that. So what I'm trying to say is the MEST will give you a lot of that encoded soundstage, but it also does this special thing where you end up hearing like out of the head type of micro details, say spatial cues. And I really love that. It's kind of unique in that respect. Some headphones, like I said, they're super wide or maybe they're super narrow, but they don't give you both all at the same time. This does that. And so like that kind of like, goes into imaging, but it's just amazing. So we're going to give that a full 10 on special qualities. And I think for folks that are into a total top-of-the-line tuning, this is going to absolutely knock it out of the park. Yeah, it's just as good as I've ever heard, and maybe as good as it gets, possibly. Okay, colored or accurate sound. So this one, in fact, I've been battling in my own mind. And what I ended up coming to the conclusion of is that it's, in fact, not as studio accurate as the EJ07. However, it is quite accurate. It does replay what the producers of a mix had intended with a little extra flair. I believe the EJ07 adds very little flair to a recording. It gives you what was encoded and probably not much else. But the MEST throws in a little extra, say, OCD detail, a little bit of a unique tuning. And so basically this, if you're looking for like, studio accurate, perfect sound, it's maybe not going to be exactly that, but it is very, very, very nice. So 8 out of 10 on that level. Wideness. It's as wide as I've ever heard. It's as wide as anything ever gets. Things are way beyond the left and right sides of your head. So let's see. I was going to bring up a couple tracks, but actually they're vaporwave, and I'm going to list these in after I post the video, so you can pull up these tracks and listen to them on your own. But if I just throw them out here, you're just going to be like, huh? So anyway, wideness, as good as it gets. It's a 10 out of 10. It's very naturally wide. Yeah, micro details could be off in space out in the left and the right of you in the encoded soundscape. So as good as it gets, man. That's a 10. And then you might say, well, what else could be as wide as possible? And then we have like the Sony EX800 ST and the Voyager 14. I prefer the playback of actually the MEST, but we can't fault wideness of playback. That's an excellent metric on any headphone. So, 3D, okay. And this is another one that I really, really had to focus very, very hard on. So it's basically as good as it gets. This is completely 3D holographic, all of those buzzwords that you'd ever want to hear. It gives you the feeling that you are sitting within a sort of, maybe not a sphere, but you're sitting within a venue that sound is being played. So compared to the EJ07, I would call that maybe your seat in the venue would be slightly closer to the stage. Definitely not in the front row, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 rows back. So you're going to get a good amount of direct information from the band and the PA system speakers, but also an excellent amount of ambient sound bouncing around you. Yeah, you get my point. It's that good. So, but maybe not quite to the level of the EJ07, which is like, it's as 3D holographic as anything ever gets. I think maybe the OCD detail sprinkled in on top of the MEST possibly decreases that, but it's very minor, and it's kind of probably a personal thing more than anything, actually, in terms of whether those types of details cause you to, I don't know, cause the sound field to shrink for your brain or not. That's kind of what I'm saying. And then, so let's move on to imaging, which is, I kind of said that, but it's as good as it ever gets on anything. You can absolutely pinpoint anything, 3 dimensions, center stuff. Oh, and I wanted to mention this. So the V14, when you have a center panned vocal, it actually feels like it's between your eyes, sort of inside your head. When you listen to that same type of vocal track on the MEST, it sounds to me like the vocalist is standing in front of me, out maybe a couple feet. Is definitely not between my ears and not inside my head. Does that give you an idea of what I'm talking about? I hope. I just, as far as imaging goes, but it's a very, very natural playback. It is not at all like other top-of-the-line tune sets that present things in that sort of 2D format. It feels so natural, like I'm sitting in a real sound field in a room, or, something close to that. You can pick out instruments anywhere, absolutely anywhere, up, down, left, right, behind you, centered, twisted around, whatever. It's incredible. Fantastic. Moving on to volume scaling. So, yes, you might see that as an 8, and then the EJ07 is going to be a full-on 10. And I checked that pretty closely. It's probably mostly due to this. So we're talking about the 6K peak on the MEST versus the EJ that has a really nice relaxed 6K. And that's really the upper side of the mid-range, very, very low treble. But, so when you have, let's say, a snare drum crack, or like those percussive transient hits, especially snare drums right there, they can just take your head off with the MEST at high volume. Certain devices are more forgiving on that than others, and like the X Duo that I use, it's my go-to device, is definitely more forgiving in that range, I believe, versus something like the ES100 is actually less forgiving than the X Duo in high mids, at least for my ears. So it's kind of a pet peeve for me. I really, I do tend to listen to, especially tracks that I love a lot. I listen to them very loud, and the volume comes up as I get pumped and psyched with what I'm listening to. And it's just a thing, man. It's kind of like, my brain really does want to be able to hear stuff loud when I feel like I want it. And so volume scaling is actually super important to me. And on this graph, you will see that there are a couple headphones that are up there in terms of volume scaling. And the MEST is going to be a level down from the best, but it is actually very good. You can still get it very loud. You can get your rocking out going on, and it's not gonna hurt you. We'll just say that. So quite good. 8 out of 10. Bass. In its stock format, that's to say not EQ'd. You get a good seal. The bass on this guy is disgusting. It's just great. It's tuned in an audiophile way. That's to say that it's not bloaty, not tubby, not too much. If your track has a good amount of extension going down to 20 hertz, 30 hertz, something like that, you will absolutely hear it. And what I find even better than the EJ07 and almost anything except the Sony EX800ST, I did a little A-B comparison with bass on those two, and they do a lot of the same stuff. So the texture of the bass on the MEST is next level. It's hard to put into words what texture of bass sounds like, but like certain tracks, I felt like I was listening to 2 subwoofers, one on left and right of my room, in my ears. And I don't think the EJ really sounds like that. It sounds more like you're listening to one subwoofer, something in that sort of, talking about that sort of thing. So Yeah, the MEST is next level, and it matches the EX800 ST in overall slam, extension, texture. It's certainly not tuned exactly the same as like the EX800 ST, but it's as good as bass gets. Depending on what kind of tuning you enjoy, it is that good. So we're going to give that a fat 10. And also, I bass-headed that crap up, man. I threw some X-Duo bass boost on it, and it was like, wow. Just, yeah, knocked it out of the park. I rarely heard sets that can take EQ that good in the bass range and produce such a amazing tactile response. I like airs hitting my eardrums kind of thing. Just, jeez. Well, let me just bring up a track. So I found this, oh yeah, this is going to be real easy to talk about. It's Hong Kong Express. The album is 2047, and the track title is like, it's a Japanese word. I think it's the only Japanese word on that album. Right, like, yeah, that's a lot of help. But anyway, it's got this 22 hertz tone, and it's 22 hertz. I know that because I checked it. And it's like, it almost sounds like an earthquake. So like it's kind of like, vapor wavy, like, whoosh, swishing and all this weird stuff. And then it sounds like a friggin' earthquake is going on around you. And when I realized that track sort of had that effect, I played it in the MEST, and it was just like, wow, that was amazing. Felt like the headphones were vibrating. So yeah, we'll call that, that's a 10, a fat 10. All right, let's move on to the actual point of the MEST that may be hard for people to deal with. It's the mids and the boner conduction. We got to have lots of boner conduction. Yes, we need a fit. We have to have a deep fit for the mids to come up properly. If you don't get a deep fit, you're not getting enough contact on your ear. The mids are going to sound a little bit recessed. Couple tracks, the vocals. When I first kind of tried these out, I was using like Comply, and it wasn't going in very deep in my ears, and I didn't feel like the mids were rich enough for me. Later on, I thought about it. It's like, okay, bone conduction, everyone's getting customs. I probably ought to take that more seriously, so I got those crazy tips and shoved those things all the way halfway through my skull, and the mids came way up. And actually, the mids do this crazy weird thing where they don't even sound like they're coming from the headphones. The bone conduction driver is very, very special, and I'm sure I'm going to try another set of something, whatever I can find, that has one of these bone conduction drivers in it, just because I think it's amazing, and I think it's special. Quadbrid, right? Yeah, baby. So the mids, if you don't get them just right, these bottomed out in your ear, the mids are going to be closer to like a 7 or 8. If you get them probably as good as they could possibly get, you're going to get a 9 or 10 out of them. I'm going to call it a 9. I prefer the EJ07 mids. They have more richness in the places I like it, and you can see from my rating, the mids are a 10 on the EJ07, and I'm fully behind that. I'm a mid man. That's the truth. The heart of the music is in mids, and that's what I like. So, moving on. Treble, detail. And I'll just scroll over a little bit more. And resolving power resolution. They're going to be a 10. There's just nothing else you could say on these. They're as good as it ever gets. They are shockingly good. Let's bring out a track. So, Bird of Prey, Pathfinder, the Desert Dwellers remix. And like I said, I'll list these afterwards in the video. It's fully electronic track. It's got like crazy sounds coming from everywhere. We'll just say that. All kinds of weird everything that you can imagine. It's not like a typical synth wave, anything like that. It's very modern. And it has extension going up to 15, 16, 17,000 hertz all the way down to, 30 hertz. Anyways, the treble and resolution on that track and other tracks is spectacular. It's as good as it gets. If you're the kind of person that really, really focuses on micro details, the treble texture, I'm trying to give examples like twinkly bells, the twinkles, the little magic little sparkles, the zings that you hear in music. These are going to kill it for you. Absolutely kill it. They give me like little shivers down my spine when that stuff hits. And it's like, those little tingly effects. I almost think that these headphones are turning me into an OCD detail lover. And I was certainly never like that before. And these present that stuff in such a special way that I absolutely enjoy it. And I was looking for tracks that showed me those little Easter eggs, so we call them. I don't know what we call them, but you get my point. Another track that I was testing for that is called Ital Tech Shallow Sun. Another electronic track with stuff that goes just extends all the way up as far as it goes, and a heck of a lot of electronic noises and sounds above 10K, and a lot of information there. So that's an excellent track to check that on. I guess I'm gushing. Am I gushing? I'm gushing. So I need a drink of beer. Hang on a sec. Pressure buildup. Okay, we're off of the pure sound things. Let's just talk about pressure buildup. There is none. They have a vent. It's fantastic. I'm so happy they did that. So we'll give that an extra 2 points. Isolation. If you do in fact get these super deep in there, they're going to be about a 3, maybe a 4 actually, depending on the person and the tips, but they're really excellent. So yeah, binaural. Okay, so they're not as good as other sets with the incredible extra amount of OCD detail in there. When you have a track that has binaural encoding, that just tends to make it sound a little bit fake and processed versus standing in a room. So I'll give it like a 3 out of 5. It could be 2 out of 5. We'll be nice and say 3. It's really pretty good. Okay, so let's talk about a couple things that may be some hot spots. I did mention the mids, the high mids, and I think just talking about the mids, strictly speaking, versus the bass and the treble, because of the bass and treble being so incredibly amazing and like top of the line and just as good as it gets, I kind of feel like the mids are not a letdown, but just like they're not. They could have done better. I don't know. I don't dislike the mids at all, and I've heard far, far, far worse. But I rated the EJ07 as having better mids, and I'm going to stand by that. I guess you could say that when you have everything else is like 10 out of 10, you're just like, if only, right? If only. But it could be that just adding those extra bit of mids in there might sort of break the magic tuning that these have in the other areas. I don't know. It's just a guess of mine. But so that's pretty much it. A lot of folks are going out and buying custom mests. And I totally understand that. If you got this, and like I said, it's a little rough on the ears to shove this in, but if you were just having a nice custom set you could just slide in there, I'm imagining that's nearly about as good as it's going to get for anything. And Critical, he ordered a custom set of these. Hawaii Bad Boy ordered a custom set of these. My buddy, one buddy that, Kevin from IRC, yo, what's up, Kevin? He gushed about these, and he never gushes about anything, so he kind of like got me on track to checking these out. But he's going to go custom. He sold his off. I just sold mine off. I'm going custom. Yeah, you heard that right. It's kind of like one of those things, you get this far into the top of the line, and it's like, let's just go for the last 10%. Let's just do it. So these are mighty expensive headphones. They were $1,400, and when you're getting up past $1,000, am I going to wreck these to someone? Hell yeah, I am going to wreck these to someone. If you're the kind of person that enjoys, if you're an OCD detail lover, which a lot of folks are, they trip out on, these little Easter eggs and things they find in music. These are as good as it gets. And I think you could spend $2,000 and probably not get this level of amazing tuning and resolution, and even the fit is really good. And, all these things, it's a complete package. I would say that, and by the way, these are sold out as of right now, which is Sunday, the September 6th. I believe Unique Melody is going to get some of these back in. If you're looking for them, do place a pre-order. I'm not sure they're making a ton of these. I just wanted to mention that. So highly, highly, highly recommended. If we go back to my little Excel spreadsheet, we can see, in fact, that, let me just scroll over. We have a new top dog Whoa, there you are. We got a new top dog on the spreadsheet, and I do believe that I'm going to stand behind that 100%. So thanks for listening up, folks. I will talk to you on the next one, and have a wonderful day.